Make a right
Maybe it's
turn.
a shortcut, Dwight. It said go to the right.
It can't mean that. There's a lake
right
there.
there.
It knows where it is going.
Have you ever made a decision just because everyone else was doing it?
The machine knows. This is the lake. Stop yelling at me. No, it's not yelling. There's no road here.
Maybe you picked a restaurant simply because there was a long line outside, assuming it had to be good. Or you bought a stock because people on social media were saying it was the next big thing.
Surprise! GameStop's up.
Or maybe you even changed your opinion on something because you noticed everyone around you believed the opposite. Now, if you've ever done anything like that, don't feel bad. It's not just you. It's not even a mistake. In fact, it's a feature of how the human brain works. We're wired to look at the actions of others when making decisions, especially when we're uncertain. And marketers, salespeople, influencers, politicians, and even cult leaders know exactly how to use that against you. Psychologist Bob Cialdini calls this phenomenon social proof. And once you understand how it works, you'll start to see it everywhere. But more importantly, you'll be able to recognize when it's working against you, keeping you broke, stopping you from taking action, or leading you toward bad decisions. And here's the kicker. When you know how to use social proof in the right way, you can actually turn it into one of your most powerful tools for success. But before we get into that, I need to warn you. There is a dark side to social proof, and in some cases, it has led to truly disastrous consequences. The perfect example, Jonestown, Guyana, 1978. Stick around, because in just a few minutes, I'm going to reveal how social proof led over 900 people to their deaths, and how you can protect yourself from that same exact psychological trap.
I've heard there's over 20 million people doing it now, so it's safe to say that everyone is doing it.
My name is Stephen Kofer. Thanks for stopping by. It's great to see you again. Social proof is the idea that when we're uncertain about what to do, we look to other people's behavior as a guide. We assume that if a lot of people are doing something, it must be the right thing to do. And to be fair, most of the time, this mental shortcut actually helps us. Imagine you're in a foreign country and you don't speak the language. You walk into a food market and there are two food stalls, one with a long line and another with nobody there. You're naturally going to assume the crowded one has better food. Or let's say you're looking for a new book to read. You see a novel labeled New York Times bestseller and another book you've never even heard of. The bestseller must be good, right? Social proof is a shortcut, a way to quickly decide what to do without having to think too hard. The problem is that just because a lot of people are doing something doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. And when this principle is used against us, it can lead to dangerous outcomes, which brings me to Jonestown. Ever hear the phrase, "don't drink the Kool-Aid"? Yep. You can thank Jim Jones. In 1978, over 900 people, members of a religious group called the People's Temple, died in a mass suicide led by their leader, Jim Jones. They drank cyanide-laced Kool-Aid, believing they were carrying out a revolutionary act. Now, you might be thinking, I would never do something like that. And you'd probably be right, under normal circumstances. But here's the terrifying part. The people in Jonestown weren't crazy. They weren't weak-minded. They were trapped in a perfect storm of social proof. And there were three key conditions that made it so powerful. And these same conditions affect your life today, whether you realize it or not. Let's break them down. Condition 1, uncertainty, when we don't know what to do. When we're unsure about a situation, we naturally look to others for guidance. The people in Jonestown were in an unfamiliar environment, cut off from outside information, and under an immense amount of stress. They didn't know what to do, so they followed what they saw others doing. The exact same thing happens in modern society. In an emergency, people tend to freeze. Not because they don't care, but because they're waiting to see how others respond. And if nobody acts, they don't act either. Trust me, I've been there. One day at our factory, a fire broke out, and people just kind of stood there looking at it like kind of frozen, like what should I be doing right now? And it was kind of a strange thing and definitely a learning experience for me where I can see how that happens. So this is why if you ever find yourself like in an emergency situation and need help, don't just yell, "Somebody help." Instead, lock eyes with one person in that crowd, point at them and say, "You, I need your help." This makes it clear that they are responsible, breaking through any hesitation that they might have. Condition number 2, the many. If everyone's doing it, it must be right. When we see a large group of people doing something, we assume there must be a good reason for it. In Jonestown, as more and more people drank the poison, it became increasingly difficult for others to resist. And in everyday life, we fall for this all the time. We assume a packed restaurant must be good, that a viral social media trend must be worth following, or that a hot stock tip must be a great investment just because everyone else is buying in. But here's the catch. Sometimes the majority is completely wrong. Condition number 3, similarity. We follow people like us. The last condition is similarity. We are most influenced by people who are like us. The members of Jonestown weren't just following random strangers. They were following their friends, their family, their community. This is why social proof is strongest when we see people we relate to taking an action. It's why we're more likely to buy a product if we see someone our age, our gender, or our background using it. This is how influencers work. It's why you trust online reviews from real people more than advertisements. It's why cults, mobs, and mass hysteria can spread like wildfire within a group. And if you don't recognize this, you might find yourself making decisions you never would have made on your own. Now that you know how social proof works and how it can be used to manipulate you, let's talk about how you can turn the tables and make it work for you instead. The truth is, social proof isn't inherently good or bad. It's just a psychological principle. If you learn how to use it correctly, it can be one of your greatest assets in business, leadership, and even personal relationships. There are 3 powerful ways to flip social proof to your advantage. Let's break them down. Strategy number 1, be a first mover. Go where the crowd hasn't gone yet. Think about every major success story in history. The people who made the biggest impact and built the most wealth weren't the ones following the crowd. They were the ones who saw the opportunity before everyone else. Take Amazon. When Jeff Bezos started the company in 1994, the internet was still in its infancy. People thought online shopping was a joke. If Bezos had followed social proof, he never would have taken that leap. Same is true for early Bitcoin investors. Back in 2011, you could buy Bitcoin for $1. Most people ignored it because no one else was investing in it. But those who went against the crowd and thought independently became millionaires. So ask yourself, where is everyone else looking right now? Where is no one looking? What opportunities feel risky because they don't have mainstream approval yet? If you can develop the ability to spot opportunities before they become trends, you'll always stay ahead of the curve. Strategy 2, control perception. Position yourself as an authority. The second way to use social proof to your advantage is to create it for yourself. If you walk into a restaurant and see an empty dining room, what's your first thought? This place must be terrible. But if you see a full restaurant with a long wait list, you assume the food is amazing. The same thing happens in business, social settings, and even dating. People assume that if others want you, you must be valuable. If no one seems interested, they assume there must be a reason for that too. This is why top influencers, entrepreneurs, and celebrities manufacture social proof. Ever notice how influencers make sure to film themselves in front of huge crowds, even if only a small section of the audience is actually watching? It's to create the illusion of popularity. Why do companies pay actors to leave positive reviews on Amazon? Because more reviews equals more sales. And why do luxury brands hire celebrities to wear their products? Because if a famous person is wearing it, we assume it must be valuable. The good news? You don't have to be a celebrity to build social proof in your own life. Here's how you can do it. First, surround yourself with success. If people see you associating with high-value individuals, they'll assume you're high value too. Display your accomplishments. If you've won awards, been featured in an article, or gotten great results for others, make sure that people know about it. Leverage testimonials. Whether in business or social settings, when others vouch for your credibility, it instantly elevates your status. And the best part? Once you establish social proof, it starts to build on itself. Success attracts more success. Strategy 3. Think independently. Break free from the herd mentality. Finally, the most important thing you can do is train yourself to think independently. The biggest mistake most people make is assuming if everyone is doing it, it must be the right thing to do. But history has shown us that the majority isn't always right. Think about the dot-com bubble in the 90s. People were throwing money into internet stocks without knowing anything about them, just because everyone else was investing. Then the bubble burst and people lost millions. Or take the housing crash in 2008. Everyone believed real estate prices would always go up, so they bought homes they couldn't afford, and the result? The entire financial system collapsed. If you don't develop the ability to question the crowd, you're going to get swept in the same bad decisions that lead to financial ruin, wasted time, and missed opportunities. So before you follow what everyone else is doing, ask yourself, are they actually successful, or are they just loud? Do they have data to back up their decisions, or are they just following trends? If this was such a great idea, why didn't they take action sooner? When you start questioning social proof instead of blindly following, you'll see opportunities that others miss. You'll make better financial decisions. You'll avoid bad investments, bad relationships, and bad advice. And most importantly, you'll finally be in control of your own choices rather than letting the herd dictate them for you.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
Now let me ask you a question. What's one area of your life where social proof has influenced you? Maybe in a way you didn't even realize at the time. Drop a comment below. I read every single one, and I might even feature your story in a future video. And if you want to learn even more about how persuasion works, check out the rest of my series on influence here. We'll see you in the next one.
I am smart. S-M-R-T. I mean S-M-A-R-T.